a well-known fact that side-scrolling shooters dominated the market back in the day. I mean, there were games like Commander Keen, Jazz Jackrabbit and Zool. Unfortunately, this trend was quickly trumped by the late 90s 3D shooters. Not that I have a problem with those, it's just that I think that side-scrolling shooters have a bit more charm to them. So this time, we're going to take a look at Turrican 2.
Welcome to Turrican!
Turrican was originally released on the Commodore 64, Amiga, Atari ST, Amstrad CPC and the ZX Spectrum in 1990, and received some really favourable reviews. It was obvious that a game as well received as this one would attain at least one sequel, and Turrican actually got a few, spanning across many different consoles at the time. Now, you may be wondering why I'm reviewing Turrican 2, and that's because it was the first in the series to hit MS-DOS. However, this specific version of Turrican 2 was released on PC 4 years after its initial release in 1991, which makes me wonder what took them so long in the first place. Let's just hope it was worth the wait. Turrican 2 is home to one of my favourite title screens ever. Not only is the music awesome, but it actually teaches you how to play the game. It shows you all the abilities he has, the power-ups available and the basic enemies. I honestly think this is pretty clever. You aren't even in the game yet and you know the basics. Brilliant! It's like the idea that Egoraptor brought up in the Mega Man X Sequelitis video, but amplified. It's pretty neat. In a world made in MS Paint, a ship with pink hallways is attacked by evil mutants, and many of the crew are defeated in battle. To be honest, they look more like they saw something really gross. A pink-haired survivor vows his revenge against the mutants and dons his trusty Turrican suit. As I mentioned, Turrican 2 is firstly and foremost a side-scrolling shooter. Your task is to reach the end of every level within the time limit while collecting as much score as possible and blasting your way through robots, aliens, and men with the mindset of Ripperoo. It's a simple and yet effective formula that works well for games like this. Throughout the levels you can find many different power-ups which enhance your weapon. I personally prefer the multi-shot and the laser because I find the bounce power-up to be a little bit Each power-up becomes more powerful the more you collect of them, amplifying the size and destructiveness of your shots. And I have to admit, it's kinda gratifying just blasting away with a giant laser. My only real gripe with the power-ups is that you can easily replace them by accident. It's very much like in Castlevania, when you accidentally replace a holy water with a knife, which can be kinda frustrating. You have many abilities available as Turrican. He can move, shoot, jump and duck as you'd expect, but he can also release a shockwave, create a stream of fire and lest we forget, he can turn into a saw blade. All of these abilities serve a purpose in this game, and none of them feel underused. The shockwave is good for getting out of a tight pinch, the fire stream can be used for quick DPS and searching for secrets, and morphing into a saw blade not only makes you invincible, but also makes you kill anything in your path. It may sound overpowered, but it sometimes leads to your demise. Like that. My bad. There are also gems scattered around in levels, but they serve no purpose other than to increase your score. One simple thing I can say about this game is that it's difficult. It's very difficult. Maybe I just suck, but it took me ages to become skilled enough to get past the first level. Mastering the controls is simple enough, but the combat in this game is often merciless. You take your eyes off the balls for 1 second and boom, well, the balls kill you. At first I thought it might have been just me sucking at the game, but the more I played, the more I realised how flawed this game is in some areas. Firstly, the respawn places in this game are occasionally broken. The worst of it comes when you fall into a pit, and then respawn, but you respawn above the pit you just fell into. It ends up being a perpetual loop of death, which feels really cheap when it happens. Another issue I had was at the time it was a little too quick considering the level size. I actually found myself running out of time quite often just working my way through the Metroid-esque labyrinths of levels. And to add to this, I don't really think that speed suits this game, because rushing often just results in careless deaths. The levels are too complex to be built for speed, and Turrican is not Sonic the Hedgehog by any means. However, the thing that bothered me the most was the lack of blink time. For those who don't know, blink time is the short period of invulnerability after being hit in a game. It stops enemies from scoring huge combos on you with you being able to do nothing. Now, Turrican 2 has no blink time whatsoever, meaning that enemies can hit you multiple times very quickly, and sometimes you can die before you even realize what's happening. To make matters worse, you don't even have any form of knockback, or any indication of when you've been hit other than a simple noise. In games, it's important to know when you are getting hit so you can react to your enemies. Once again, this flaw leads to many a cheap death. Hey Turrican, ever heard of, fairness? It's not all bad though. Graphically this game is pretty awesome. Not as good as the graphics in the Amiga version, but it still looks pleasing to the eyes in this version, particularly the backdrops. In addition, the animations are smooth, and that adds an element of polish to the game's visuals. And the music. Oh, the music. Considering when this game was released, this music is incredibly high quality, and might I say there sure are some foot tappers in this game. One song which I love is the theme from the second level, Traps. This particular tune keeps getting stuck in my head, and even out of the game, I listen to it. There's only one thing that really bugs me about the music, and it's that the music can sound a little cheerful at times, considering how many times you'll die in this game. I mean, listen to this song. I mean, it's great, but the intro to that song doesn't really fit all too well in my opinion. Overall though, this soundtrack is legendary. I honestly would say that this is the magnum opus of Chris Hulsbeck's work. Now you may remember that Hulsbeck composed the music for some other games that we all know of. Let's just move on, shall we? Something interesting about this game is its vast amounts of secrets and hidden areas. These often contain power-ups, 1-ups or score, and can be pretty useful if you can find them. Throughout the game, there are also hidden blocks everywhere. Hidden block over here, hidden block over there, hidden blocks just about everywhere. The best way to find these is using the Fire Stream ability. Although, when you use it, you do kinda look like you're dancing. The main issue with the secrets is that you have to go out of your way to find them, and if you recall, there is a time limit to the levels. I don't really understand why the game both encourages and discourages exploration. I honestly want to find these secrets, but it's just not worth the risk most of the time. As I mentioned, Turrican 2 is by no means an easy game. The enemies are utterly tenacious, and the worst of them comes in the form of these little flying things that happen to look like miniature X-Wings. They're so hard to hit, and they do a little too much damage in my opinion. I find that the bosses of this game are a little boring to fight. Some of them you can just camp in one spot to beat, and some just take far too long. This particular fight has to be one of the most incredulously boring bosses I have ever fought. On the plus side though, the designs are actually fairly imaginative. Well, as imaginative as giant faces can be. The first 4 levels of Turrican 2 are simple enough, and you can beat them easily with a bit of practice and memorization of secrets. However, level 5 completely flustered me. It takes a more gradius approach to gameplay, but keeps the power-ups and hit detection, which unfortunately didn't really work here. There are parts where I just had no idea how I died because everything was so confusing and convoluted. Oh well, let's just profess my love of this level on the scoreboards. There we go. Turrican 2 is fun enough to keep you interested for a short while, but its blatant flaws hold it back from being great. The Turrican legacy lived on for a short while, spawning exclusives for the SNES and the Mega Drive, not to mention another official sequel. There was also a cancelled 3D installment, and a fan game known as Hurricane. But other than that, the Turrican series has pretty much reached the end of its lifetime.
Quite often you'll find games which are a gem to play, You'll also often find games which kinda suck, and sometimes you'll find games that lie somewhere in between. So what's my final verdict on Turrican 2? It's alright.